Hello everyone, you are very welcome to All Saints in Aghade, County Carlow. This is a church with an extremely long history that I'll be getting into in just a moment. But first, I'd just like to introduce myself. My name is Sarah Myers and I am a medieval historian who specialises in the Irish Church's history as well as gender studies. And today I'm going to tell you a story that combines both of those, as we'll be looking at the story of Maria the Anchorite of Aghade. Now, Aghade, it has an incredibly long history. Its first mention as a Christian church was when we go back to a saint known as Saint Iserninus, who was actually the nephew of Saint Patrick. Now, Iserninus, he built the first church here. We're not too sure about its extended history around that early stage, but later it was developed by Dermot MacMurrough Kavanagh, well known as he introduced the Normans into Ireland. But before that, he was one of the major church patrons in the southeast of Ireland. And he built extensive churches within the southeast, including convents. And one of the convents he built was here at Aghade. Convents, usually when they are in this kind of rural area, they would have had a mother house that took care of them, and that mother house was in Dublin. It was St Mary del Hodges, and they would have been the ones who sort of took care of the daily administration of Aghade. Now, Aghade, the nuns here, they were Augustinian nuns, a particular branch known as the Rosians. We have a story of a woman called Maria. Now, Maria was an Anchorite. Anchorites, their history is becoming a lot more important to people these days because they were technically on permanent lockdown. They were women and men, but during the period we were talking about, around the 14th century, they were mostly women. It was around, for every 5 women, there was 2 male anchorites. Now, an anchorite was someone who, they were hermits, religious hermits, who decided to give their lives to God. And what they did was they decided to be locked into a cell, usually attached to a church. Now, there was a cell, they're known as anchor holes, attached to Aghade. And the anchor holes usually are on the northwest of a building, so they would have been at the far side of the church. They could be very small. They could be basically 2 by 3 meters. They could be quite large. Also, there could be 3 stories. They were facing the northwest, so they would catch the harshest winds. But also, you had anchor holes that the communities around them paid to have indoor heating and indoor water to come into them. You might ask, why would anyone become an anchorite? And it was just pure religious devotion. It was known as white martyrdom. Red martyrdom was where someone was killed for their beliefs. White martyrdom was where you did something extreme with your life. You gave an extreme act, as in being locked in a room for your entire life, in order to show your religious devotion. And they became next to saints. What is unusual, you may think that anchorites would have been desperate to get out given the chance, but we actually have court records where the nuns of St Mary del Hodges had to bring a woman called Maria to court. She was the anchorite here and she refused to leave. The convent had probably fell on hard times and could no longer support her, so they had to get her out of there. Probably they would have intended to move her on to a larger religious space, possibly Clonard or Fore in County Carlow. She refused and she was brought to court. We don't know what happened, but ultimately she would have probably had to leave. So hopefully we might get to find a little bit more out about Maria's story, but thank you very much for listening.